Poor technician repairs a man's laptop for free without knowing he was a millionaire. Then the next day she found a black briefcase at her workplace. Rain pattered against the worn windows of Elena Martinez's electronics repair shop in the outskirts of Boston. The flickering neon open sign cast a dim glow across the cramped workspace filled with circuit boards, soldering irons, and the accumulated technical wisdom of a lifetime. At 28, Eleanor had inherited both the shop and an extraordinary gift for electronics from her father, though some days she wondered if either would be enough to keep the lights on. She glanced at the stack of unpaid bills beside her computer. Their red final notice stamps a stark reminder of the shop's precarious situation. The latest one had arrived that morning, the landlord threatening to double the rent next month. Giants like Quick Fix Electronics were spreading across the city like wildfire, their standardized services and flashy marketing drawing away customers who once relied on small shops like hers. Running her fingers through her dark curls, Elena returned her attention to the ancient radio she was repairing for Mrs. Thompson, an elderly neighbor who couldn't afford a new one. The worn transistors needed replacing, but finding compatible parts for such an old model would be challenging. Still, she had promised to fix it, and Elena Martinez never broke a promise, even when it meant working at a loss. The bell above the door chimed, and Elena looked up to see a thin, elderly man in a weathered brown coat, clutching an old laptop to his chest as if it were made of gold. Water dripped from his gray hair onto shoulders that seemed to carry the weight of the world. "I'm sorry to bother you so late," he said, his voice gentle but worn. "I've been to 6 other repair shops today, but none would help. They said the model is too old, the parts impossible to find." He placed the laptop carefully on her counter. "This computer, it contains my life's work. I can't afford to lose what's on it." Elena recognized the model immediately, a rare ThinkPad from the early 2000s, built like a tank but notoriously difficult to repair. Modern shops wouldn't touch it, lacking both the expertise and patience required. But as her fingers traced the laptop's scratched surface, she felt a familiar spark of excitement. This was exactly the kind of challenge she lived for. "May I?" she asked, already reaching for her diagnostic tools. The man nodded, and Elena carefully opened the laptop. Her eyes widened as she examined the internal components. This was no ordinary machine. It had been extensively modified with custom parts she'd never seen before. "I'll be honest with you, sir," Elena said, looking up at the man's worried face. "This will be complicated. The internal architecture is unlike anything I've worked with before." She paused, knowing she should quote a high price for such specialized work, especially given her financial situation. But something in the man's eyes, a mixture of hope and desperation, made her add, "But I'll do it for whatever you can afford." I can't pay much," he admitted, shoulders slumping. "Then we'll work something out," Elena smiled, already pulling out her tools. "I won't let you lose your life's work." The man's eyes moistened. "Thank you, young lady. You remind me of someone I once knew, someone who understood that technology should serve people, not the other way around." He turned to leave, then paused. "How long will it take?" "Come back tomorrow afternoon," Elena replied, though she knew it meant working through the night. "I'll have it ready." After he left, Elena began her examination in earnest. The laptop's custom operating system was unlike anything she'd ever encountered, elegant, efficient, and years ahead of its time. As she worked to repair the damaged hardware, she couldn't help but admire the ingenious design, though she was careful not to probe into any of the encrypted files that filled the hard drive. Hours passed as Elena meticulously replaced components, fabricated custom connections, and solved one technical puzzle after another. Each solution required creative thinking and techniques her father had taught her, passed down through years of working side by side in this very shop. As the first rays of dawn began to paint the sky, Elena finally closed the laptop's case, satisfied with her work. She stretched, her back aching from hours hunched over the workbench, but a smile played across her lips. There was something deeply satisfying about bringing old technology back to life, about preserving someone's digital memories when others had given up. It wasn't profitable, but it felt right. Elena glanced at her watch. Just enough time to grab a quick shower and change before opening the shop for another day. As she gathered her things, her phone buzzed with a text from her cousin Miguel, who helped manage the shop. When she was overwhelmed, "Big corporate repair chain opening 2 blocks away next month. We need to talk." She sighed, pushing away the knot of anxiety that had become her constant companion. Tomorrow's problems could wait. For now, she had kept her promise, solved an impossible puzzle, and maybe, just maybe, made a small difference in someone's life. In the end, that's what really mattered. The next morning, Elena arrived early to open the shop, her eyes still heavy from the sleepless night. The old laptop sat on her workbench, fully repaired and waiting for its owner. But something else caught her attention, a sleek black briefcase placed precisely in the center of her counter. Her first thought was that someone had broken in, but the security system was still armed and nothing else appeared disturbed. She approached the briefcase cautiously, looking for any sign of how it had gotten there. No note, no business card, nothing to identify its owner. With trembling fingers, Eleanor unlatched the case. Inside, she found a stack of documents that made her breath catch in her throat. The top paper bore the letterhead of Trinity Innovations, one of the world's leading technology companies, known for its revolutionary advances in artificial intelligence and sustainable technology. But it was the signature at the bottom that made her hands shake. Alexander Trinity himself, the reclusive billionaire founder who hadn't been seen in public for over a decade. The documents revealed an incredible truth. The elderly man with the laptop was Alexander Trinity, who had spent the past year secretly visiting repair shops across the country. The letter explained that he had been searching for someone with not just technical skill, but the integrity and humanity needed to shape the future of technology. Eleanor sat heavily in her chair, her mind spinning. Trinity Innovations was legendary in the tech world, not just for its cutting-edge developments, but for its mysterious founder's philosophy that technology should serve humanity, not replace it. The company was known for developing solutions for underserved communities, though many criticized this approach as unprofitable. As she read further, her heart began to race. The contract offered her the position of head of innovation at Trinity Innovations, with a salary that made her dizzy just looking at the figures. But it wasn't the money that caught her attention. It was the project description. She would be given 6 months to develop and implement a revolutionary technology initiative focused on bringing accessible, sustainable tech solutions to underserved communities worldwide. The bell above the door chimed, interrupting her thoughts. Elena looked up to see a tall woman in an impeccably tailored suit, her presence immediately commanding attention. The woman's sharp features softened into a smile as she approached the counter. "Ms. Martinez," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Sarah Chen, Mr. Trinity's executive assistant. I trust you've had a chance to review the documents?" Elena nodded, still struggling to process everything. "Why me?" she managed to ask. Sarah's smile widened. "Mr. Trinity was impressed by several things last night. Your technical skills, certainly. The modifications you made to repair his laptop were innovative and elegant. But more importantly, he noticed that despite having access to his computer's systems, you never attempted to breach the encrypted files or exploit the custom operating system. That showed integrity." She paused, her expression becoming more serious. "But what truly convinced him was your willingness to help someone you thought was just a struggling old man, even at a loss to yourself. Mr. Trinity believes that's exactly the perspective needed to lead technological innovation. Someone who understands that the true value of technology lies in how it can help people, not just generate profits." Elena glanced around her small shop, at the worn tools that had been her father's, at the wall of photos showing happy customers whose precious electronics she'd saved over the years. "I don't have the right credentials," she said softly. "No, fancy degree, no corporate experience." "That's exactly why Mr. Trinity wants you," Sarah replied. "He's giving you 6 months to prove that sometimes the most valuable expertise comes from real-world experience, not ivory towers." She straightened, her tone becoming more businesslike. "Of course it won't be easy. Many at Trinity Innovations will resist your appointment. They'll see you as an outsider, unqualified, perhaps even a threat to their positions. Eleanor's mind raced with possibilities. With Trinity Innovations' resources, she could develop technology that would make a real difference in communities like her own. But she'd be leaving behind everything she knew, stepping into a world as foreign to her as another planet. Sarah seemed to read her thoughts. "You don't have to decide immediately," she said, placing a business card on the counter. "But Mr. Trinity believes you have the potential to transform not just his company, but the entire approach to technological innovation. The question is, are you ready to prove him right?" Eleanor picked up the card, running her fingers over its embossed surface. Her whole life had been about fixing things, broken electronics, people's problems, her own struggles. Maybe it was time to build something new. The gleaming glass towers of Trinity Innovations headquarters pierced the morning sky like crystal spears. Eleanor stood at the base, clutching her worn leather messenger bag, the same one her father had, used to carry his tools. She felt painfully out of place among the stream of professionals in designer suits flowing through the revolving doors. 2 weeks had passed since Sarah Chen's visit to her shop. 2 weeks of sleepless nights weighing the decision, of lengthy discussions with Miguel about keeping the repair shop running in her absence, of trying to convince herself she deserved this opportunity. Now, standing before the physical manifestation of her new reality, all her doubts came rushing back. First day jitters. Sarah materialized beside her, as elegant as ever in a charcoal suit. "Come on, I'll show you to your office." Office. The word itself felt foreign to Elena, who had spent her entire career in a workshop that doubled as a storage room. Sarah led her through a lobby that could have housed her entire repair shop 3 times over, past security gates that read their biometric data, and into an elevator with walls of polished steel. "Fair warning," Sarah said as they ascended. "Not everyone is happy about your appointment. Alexander's decision to bring in an outsider for such a crucial position has ruffled some feathers, particularly in the executive suite." The elevator opened directly into the innovation department's floor, and Elena immediately felt dozens of eyes turned toward her. The open-plan office space was filled with developers and engineers, all looking more qualified, more polished, more belonging than she felt. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sarah announced, her voice carrying across the floor, "this is Elena Martinez, your new head of innovation. Mr. Trinity personally selected her to lead our community technology initiative." The silence that followed was deafening. Elena caught whispers and meaningful glances exchanged between workstations. A tall man in an expensive suit approached, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "James Parker, Senior Vice President of Development," he introduced himself, extending a manicured hand. "We were surprised by Mr. Trinity's choice. Your background is certainly unique." Eleanor recognized the carefully crafted condescension in his tone, the same kind she'd heard from customers who doubted a young woman could fix their expensive electronics. She straightened her spine, meeting his gaze directly. "Unique perspectives often lead to unique solutions, Mr. Parker," she replied, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I look forward to working with your team." Sarah led her away to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The space was larger than her entire repair shop, furnished with sleek modern pieces that probably cost more than her annual income. "This is your team," Sarah gestured to a group of engineers hovering uncertainly near the door, all experts in their fields, assigned specifically to the Community Technology Initiative. Elena studied their faces, young, brilliant minds clearly torn between curiosity about their new boss and skepticism about her qualifications. One of them, a young woman with bright blue hair partially hidden under a beanie, stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Maya Chen, no relation to Sarah," she smiled. "Specializing in sustainable energy solutions. We've all read the brief about developing accessible technology for underserved communities, but we're not quite sure where to start." Elena set her bag down on the pristine desk. "Then let's start with the real world," she said, pulling out her tablet. "I've brought case studies from my repair shop, actual problems faced by real people in underserved communities, not theoretical scenarios but everyday challenges that technology could help solve. She opened a folder of photographs and documentation she'd compiled over the years. This is Mrs. Rodriguez's refrigerator, perfectly functional except for a control board that costs more than the appliance itself. This is the community center's computer lab, running on donated machines that keep breaking down because they can't handle the heat without expensive cooling systems. The team gathered around, their initial skepticism giving way to professional interest as Elena laid out practical problems that needed practical solutions. She noticed Dr. Chen taking rapid notes, her eyes lighting up with possibilities. "What if," Maya said slowly, "we developed a universal control board, something modular, adaptable to multiple appliance types? It could drastically reduce replacement costs." Elena nodded, encouraged by the spark of engagement. "And what if we could create a cooling solution that doesn't rely on traditional air conditioning? Something that could be manufactured locally using readily available materials." For the next hour, ideas flew back and forth. Elena's practical experience complemented her team's theoretical expertise, creating a synergy that began to break down the initial barriers of distrust. But through the glass walls of her office, she could see James Parker watching the interaction, his expression dark. He turned away to speak with a group of executives, their gestures suggesting an intense discussion about her presence. Sarah, who had been observing quietly, touched Eleanor's arm. "So you've made a good start," she said softly. "But remember, you have 6 months to prove not just that you belong here, but that your approach to technology can transform lives. There are many who would prefer to see you fail." Elena watched, her team excitedly sketching preliminary designs on the office's smart walls. For the first time since arriving, she felt a glimmer of confidence. She might not have the degrees or corporate experience of her colleagues, but she understood something they didn't. Technology wasn't just about innovation, it was about impact. 1 month into her role at Trinity Innovations, Eleanor found herself navigating a complex web of corporate politics while racing against time to develop her community technology initiative. The initial skepticism from her team had evolved into cautious respect as they witnessed her unique approach to problem solving, but resistance from the executive level remained fierce. She sat in her office late one evening, reviewing prototype designs for their first project, a modular self-cooling computer system designed for harsh environments. The schematics displayed on her holographic workspace showed promise, but something wasn't quite right. "Still here?" Maya's voice interrupted her thoughts. The young engineer had become her strongest ally, often staying late to help refine their designs. "The security guard said you haven't left the building since yesterday morning." Elena rubbed her tired eyes. "Something about these cooling calculations isn't adding up. We're still requiring too much power for the environmental control system." Maya perched on the edge of Elena's desk, her blue hair catching the evening light. "Maybe we're approaching this wrong. You always say we should look to real-world solutions. What did you do at your repair shop when things overheated?" "Well," Elena's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "In the summer, when we couldn't afford to run the air conditioning, my father designed a passive cooling system using terracotta pots and recycled computer fans. The porosity of the clay combined with basic evaporative principles," she began, sketching rapidly on her tablet. Maya leaned forward, excitement building in her voice. "If we could incorporate similar principles into our design, using locally available materials, Elena, this could work." Their enthusiasm was interrupted by James Parker's unwelcome presence in the doorway. "Miss Martinez," he said, emphasizing her lack of title. "The board is concerned about the direction of your project. The quarterly review is approaching, and we've seen no concrete progress, only unconventional theories." "We're making significant progress," Elena countered, gesturing to their designs. "Our approach may be unconventional, but it's practical and sustainable." "Practical?" Parker's laugh was cold. "You're suggesting we base our next generation technology on flower pots?" Trinity Innovations is a cutting-edge technology company, not a craft fair. Before Elena could respond, a notification flashed across her screen. An urgent message from Sarah Chen, requesting her presence in the executive conference room immediately. Parker's smirk suggested he knew something she didn't. "Don't worry about the quarterly review," he said as she gathered her materials. "I'm sure the board will understand when I explain your unique methodology." Elena's heart pounded as she made her way to the conference room. Sarah was waiting outside, her usually composed features tight with concern. "There's been a development," she said quietly. "Alexander Trinity has gone off the grid. No one has been able to contact him for the past week." The news hit Elena like a physical blow. Alexander Trinity, her only ally in the upper echelons of the company, had vanished without warning. What does this mean for the project? "The board is meeting tomorrow morning to discuss the company's direction in Alexander's absence," Sarah explained. "James Parker is pushing to redirect resources to more commercially viable projects. He's arguing that investing in community technology during uncertain times is too risky." Elena felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. Without Alexander's protection, everything she'd been working toward could be dismantled with a single board vote. She thought of her team, of Maya's enthusiasm, of the communities waiting for solutions that could change their lives. "There's more," Sarah added, lowering her voice further. "I've discovered that Parker has been monitoring your project closely, but not for the reasons you might think. He's been in contact with military contractors, exploring ways to adapt your designs for defense applications." The revelation struck Elena like lightning. Her technology, meant to help communities thrive, was being eyed as a potential weapon. The same innovations that could bring computing power to remote villages could also power military installations in hostile territories. "What can I do?" Elena asked, her mind racing through possibilities. Sarah glanced at her watch. "The board meets at 9 tomorrow morning. You have until then to prove that your approach isn't just idealistic, but commercially viable. Show them that helping communities and building a successful business aren't mutually exclusive." Elena nodded slowly, an idea forming in her mind. "I need access to the company's market research databases and Maya. Get Maya for me. We have work to do." As Sarah hurried away, Elena stared out the conference room windows at the city lights below. Somewhere out there, Alexander Trinity had placed his faith in her ability to transform his company. She couldn't let him down now, even if he wasn't here to see it. With renewed determination, she pulled out her tablet and began to work. The night ahead would be long, but she was used to working against impossible odds. The boardroom buzzed with tension as Eleanor stood before the assembled executives, her presentation ready on the vast display screen behind her. She had worked through the night with Maya, fueled by coffee and determination, preparing for this moment. The morning sun cast long shadows across the polished table where James Parker sat smirking, clearly expecting to witness her downfall. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board," Eleanor began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You've heard concerns about the commercial viability of the Community Technology Initiative. Today I'll show you why those concerns are not just misguided, but represent a massive missed opportunity." She gestured, and the screen filled with market analysis. "Data? While we've been focusing on saturated markets, competing for the same affluent customers, we've overlooked an untapped global market of over 3 billion potential users." The board members shifted in their seats as Elena advanced through her presentation. "Our modular, sustainable technology platform isn't just charity, it's an investment in emerging markets. By developing solutions that work in the most challenging environments, we're creating products that are more robust, more efficient, and more adaptable than anything our competitors offer." She pulled up case studies from her repair shop, now transformed into market research data. "When we repaired Mrs. Rodriguez's refrigerator, we weren't just helping one family. We were identifying a systemic problem that affects millions of households. Our universal control board solution doesn't just save one appliance, it creates a new market for affordable, sustainable replacement parts." The presentation shifted to show global infrastructure maps. Every region marked in red represents a potential market we've ignored, because traditional technology solutions aren't viable there. But our approach changes that equation entirely. Maya, standing quietly in the corner, gave an encouraging nod as Eleanor moved to her key point. By developing technology that can thrive in these challenging environments, we're not just solving social problems. We're positioning Trinity Innovations to dominate the next wave of global technological expansion. The boardroom remained silent as Elena revealed the financial projections. Conservative estimates show our initiative generating substantial revenue within 3 years, with potential market penetration that exceeds our current premium products. And because our solutions use locally available materials and create jobs in target communities, we build brand loyalty while minimizing production costs. She could see the numbers working their magic on the board members' expressions. Even James Parker's smirk had faded, replaced by a look of calculated interest that worried her more than his open hostility. "But there's something else you should consider," Elena continued, her voice softening. "Something Alexander Trinity understood when he founded this company." She switched to a different display, showing images of communities transformed by accessible technology. Every market we ignore becomes an opportunity for our competitors. Every community we fail to serve becomes a testament to our short-sightedness. The board chairman, a distinguished woman named Victoria Blackwood, leaned forward. "Your numbers are impressive, Ms. Martinez, but Mr. Parker raises valid concerns about development costs and timeline." Elena had been waiting for this opening. "That's why we've already completed our first prototype." She nodded to Maya, who wheeled in a cart covered by a cloth. "Using locally sourced materials and our innovative cooling system, we've created a computing platform that costs 1/10 of traditional solutions while operating in environments our competitors can't touch." The demonstration that followed left the boardroom in stunned silence. The prototype not only worked flawlessly, but demonstrated capabilities that exceeded their original specifications. Elena could see the executives exchanging impressed glances, mentally recalculating their positions. But it was James Parker's reaction that caught her attention. Instead of looking defeated, he appeared almost pleased, making notes with unusual intensity. Elena remembered Sarah's warning about military contractors, and a chill ran down her spine. Had she just proved the military potential of her technology while trying to defend its humanitarian purpose? As the board filed out for deliberation, Sarah appeared at Elena's side. "Brilliant presentation," she whispered, "but we may have a bigger problem. I've discovered why Alexander Trinity disappeared." She glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "He didn't just vanish, he was deliberately pushed out. And I think I know who's behind it." Before Sarah could elaborate, Victoria Blackwood returned to the boardroom. "Ms. Martinez, the board has reached a decision. While we're impressed with your work, recent developments require us to make some adjustments to the company's direction." Elena's heart sank as she recognized the corporate euphemism for what was coming. But she hadn't survived years of struggle by giving up easily. As Victoria prepared to continue, Elena's mind was already racing, formulating a plan that would either save her project or end her career at Trinity Innovations before it truly began. The words, "adjustments to the company's direction," still hung in the air when the boardroom door burst open. A young woman in ripped jeans and a leather jacket strode in, her presence instantly commanding attention despite her casual attire. Eleanor recognized her from company photos. Sophia Trinity, Alexander's daughter, and the company's largest individual shareholder after her father. "I believe," Sophia announced, her voice carrying the same authority that had made her father legendary, "that any adjustments to company direction require my approval as a major stakeholder." She fixed Victoria Blackwood with a steely gaze. "Especially when those adjustments involve undermining my father's explicit wishes." The board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Sophia Trinity was known for her rebellious nature and her very public rejection of corporate life. Her sudden appearance at a board meeting was unprecedented. "Ms. Trinity," James Parker started, his smooth voice now tinged with uncertainty. We were simply ensuring that company resources are being allocated appropriately during your father's temporary absence. Sophia's laugh was sharp. Temporary absence? Is that what we're calling it? She turned to Elena. Ms. Martinez, I've been watching your work. Unlike some people in this room, I actually understand what my father saw in you. Elena felt the weight of every eye in the room as Sophia continued. You see, while everyone here was focused on quarterly profits, I was investigating why my father suddenly disappeared after decades of careful succession planning. She pulled out a tablet and projected a series of documents onto the screen. These are communications between certain board members and military contractors dating back months before Ms. Martinez was hired. They detail plans to weaponize community technology innovations for military applications, despite my father's explicit ban on weapons development. The boardroom erupted in whispers. James Parker's face had gone pale, but he maintained his composure. Those documents are clearly fabricated, and even if they weren't, military applications could provide significant revenue streams that would support the community initiative. That's not your decision to make, Sophia snapped. She turned to Elena. Ms. Martinez, my father didn't just hire you for your technical skills. He chose you because you understand something fundamental about technology. Its purpose is to lift people up, not to control them. Eleanor felt a surge of confidence. The Community Technology Initiative isn't just about creating affordable solutions, she said, addressing the board. It's about empowering communities to become part of the technological revolution, not just consumers of it. Every location where we implement our program becomes a center for innovation, creating jobs and opportunities that transform entire regions. Sophia nodded approvingly. My father built this company on that principle, and while I've had my differences with him, I won't stand by and watch his vision be corrupted. She produced another document. As of this morning, I'm exercising my voting rights to call for an emergency shareholder meeting. We'll be discussing not just the future of the Community Technology Initiative, but the leadership of this company. James Parker stood abruptly. This is absurd. You've never shown any interest in the company before. Why now? Because, Sophia replied, her voice cold, I finally found something worth fighting for. She gestured to Elena's prototype. This isn't just about technology. It's about change. Real change. Not the kind that comes from boardroom decisions, but the kind that happens when you give people the tools to transform their own lives. The board members began gathering their materials, clearly sensing the shift in power dynamics. Victoria Blackwood appeared torn between protocol and self-preservation. Perhaps we should postpone any decisions about the initiative until after the shareholder meeting. Fine by me, Sophia agreed, but Ms. Martinez's team continues their work in the meantime with full funding and resources. She turned to Elena. I believe you have a prototype to refine. As the executives filed out, Sarah Chen appeared at Elena's side. Did you know about this? Elena whispered. Sarah smiled mysteriously. Let's just say some absences are more strategic than others. Sophia's been working with her father for months, preparing to take on a larger role in the company. Your project was the catalyst they needed. Elena watched Sophia Trinity gathering her things, her casual demeanor at odds with the corporate power she had just wielded. The young heiress caught her eye and winked. Better get back to work, Ms. Martinez. We have communities to empower and a company to transform. For the first time since joining Trinity Innovations, Elena felt truly secure in her position. But as she gathered her presentation materials, she noticed James Parker in an intense discussion with several board members in the hallway. Their battle wasn't over. It was just entering a new phase. 3 weeks after Sophia Trinity's dramatic boardroom intervention, Eleanor's project had gained momentum. Her team had expanded, occupying an entire floor of Trinity Innovations' research wing, their walls covered with designs and prototype models. The atmosphere crackled with creative energy as engineers and developers collaborated on solutions that could transform communities worldwide. Elena stood before a holographic display, reviewing the latest modifications to their modular computing system. Maya sat cross-legged on a nearby desk, her blue hair now streaked with silver, tapping rapidly on her tablet as she refined the power management algorithms. "The latest field tests are incredible," Maya announced, looking up from her work. "The solar integration is exceeding all our efficiency projections. Communities could power these systems with minimal infrastructure." But Elena's attention was drawn to a notification flashing on her screen, an urgent message from Miguel. Her cousin had been managing her old repair shop, which she'd kept open as a testing ground for their prototypes. The message made her blood run cold. "Water main burst, shop flooded, everything's underwater, need help ASAP." Attached were photos that made her heart sink. The shop where she'd grown up, where her father had taught her everything she knew, was submerged in 2 feet of murky water. Years of collected tools, spare parts, and irreplaceable equipment, all at risk. "I have to go," Elena said, already grabbing her coat. "The shop?" "Go," Maya nodded, understanding. "I'll handle things here." She hesitated, then added, "But Elena, the shareholder meeting is tomorrow. James Parker's been spreading rumors about your divided loyalties to anyone who will listen." Elena paused at the door. The shareholder meeting would determine not just her project's future, but potentially the direction of Trinity Innovations itself. Missing crucial preparation time could be disastrous. But the shop wasn't just a business, it was her heritage, her community's lifeline, and a testament to her father's legacy. The drive to her old neighborhood felt like traveling between worlds. The gleaming corporate towers gave way to familiar streets, where laundry lines stretched between buildings, and children played pickup soccer in empty lots. Her heart clenched as she turned the corner and saw the crowd gathered outside her shop. Miguel was coordinating a group of neighbors who were forming a bucket brigade, trying to salvage what they could. Mrs. Thompson, the elderly woman whose radio Elena had fixed for free, was there despite her arthritis, carefully drying circuit boards on her porch. "Most of the diagnostic equipment is safe," Miguel reported as Elena waded into the shop. "We got it to high ground when the water started rising, but the storage room..." He gestured to where decades of accumulated spare parts and tools lay submerged. Elena felt tears threatening, but pushed them back. This wasn't just about her shop. It was about every person in the community who relied on her services. People who couldn't afford to replace their electronics, who needed repairs to keep their businesses running, their families connected, their lives functioning. As she helped coordinate the cleanup efforts, her phone buzzed constantly with messages from Trinity Innovations. Sarah Chen warning about board members asking her whereabouts. Sophia Trinity requesting final presentation materials. James Parker scheduling last-minute meetings she couldn't attend. Around midnight, exhausted and soaked, Elena sat on the shop's front steps. The water had receded, leaving behind a mess that would take weeks to sort through. Her neighbors had worked tirelessly beside her, refusing to leave until they'd saved everything they could. Their solidarity touched her deeply, reminding her exactly why her work at Trinity Innovations mattered. "You know," a familiar voice said, making her jump. "When I first visited this shop, I knew I'd found something special." Elena looked up to see Alexander Trinity himself, dressed in the same worn brown coat he'd worn when bringing in his laptop. He sat down beside her on the wet steps, seemingly unconcerned about his expensive trousers. "Where have you been?" Elena asked, too tired for formalities. "The company is exactly where it needs to be," he finished. "Sometimes leadership means knowing when to step back and let new voices emerge." He gestured to the community members still helping with cleanup. "Look around you, Elena. This is why I chose you. You understand that technology isn't about products, it's about people." He reached into his coat and pulled out a tablet. "I think you'll find these interesting. My original notes on community-based technology development from 30 years ago. I had similar dreams once, before quarterly reports and shareholder pressures made me compromise." Elena accepted the tablet, with reverence recognizing it as both a gift and a challenge. "The shareholder meeting will take care of itself," Alexander assured her. "But right now your community needs you, and tomorrow you'll show the shareholders why that's not a weakness, but Trinity Innovations' greatest strength." As if on cue, her phone lit up with another message, this one from Sophia Trinity. "Don't worry about the presentation. Just bring yourself and your conviction. Sometimes the most powerful argument is simply being who you are. Elena looked at her waterlogged shop, at her tireless neighbors, at Alexander Trinity sitting calmly beside her, and suddenly knew exactly what she needed to do at tomorrow's meeting. It wouldn't be about charts or projections or market analyses. It would be about showing Trinity Innovations shareholders what real innovation looked like, not in a boardroom, but in the communities that needed it most. The Trinity Innovations shareholder meeting was traditionally held in the company's grand auditorium, a testament to corporate power, with its soaring glass ceiling and tiered seating. But today the shareholders found themselves in a very different setting, Elena's flood-damaged repair shop. Sophia Trinity had arranged the last-minute venue change, arguing that if they were voting on the future of community technology, they should see its impact firsthand. Executives in $1,000 suits picked their way carefully around puddles, looking out of place among the shelves of salvaged electronics and drying circuit boards. Elena stood at her workbench, which had been converted into a makeshift podium. The morning sun streamed through the windows, highlighting the watermarks on the walls and the community members who had gathered to support her. Mrs. Thompson sat in the front row, proudly holding her repaired radio. Miguel moved through the crowd, showing shareholders the real-world applications of Elena's prototypes. "Ladies and gentlemen," Elena began, her voice steady. "Yesterday this shop was underwater. Today it's open for business. Not because of corporate resources or emergency funds, but because this community came together to save it. That's the power of grassroots technology. It creates connections that go beyond circuits and software." She gestured to the prototype display Maya had helped set up. "You've seen our presentations on market potential and revenue projections, but today I want to show you something more valuable: the human impact of accessible technology." Mrs. Thompson stood up, her voice wavering but clear. "When my radio broke, it wasn't just an appliance that needed fixing. It was my connection to the world, my companion during lonely nights. Elena didn't just repair it. She gave me back my dignity." Other community members stepped forward, sharing stories of how the repair shop had helped them maintain businesses, stay connected with family, keep their children in online classes during tough times. Each testimony painted a picture of technology as a lifeline, not just a luxury. James Parker, looking uncomfortable in the humid shop, raised his hand. "These stories are touching, Ms. Martinez, but sentiment doesn't drive innovation. The military contracts we've been offered could fund these community projects while serving national interests." "Actually," Sophia Trinity interrupted, stepping forward with a tablet, "I have some updated projections to share." She displayed a series of charts showing pilot programs worldwide. Communities using Elena's prototype systems are achieving 300% better adoption rates than traditional technology initiatives. They're not just users. They're becoming innovators themselves, creating local solutions we never imagined. Alexander Trinity, still wearing his simple brown coat, stood up from where he'd been quietly observing. "When I founded this company, I had a vision of technology that served humanity, not the other way around. Somewhere along the way, we lost sight of that vision. Ms. Martinez hasn't just created innovative technology, she's reminded us of our purpose." Elena took a deep breath, moving to her final point. The flood that hit this shop wasn't just a disaster, it was a lesson. Technology isn't resilient because it's advanced. It's resilient because it's connected to the communities it serves. Every person who helped save this shop is now invested in its success. That's not just good ethics, it's good business. She unveiled their latest prototype, developed during sleepless nights between flood cleanup sessions. This is what we call the Community Hub, a self-contained, disaster-resistant computing and communication system that can be assembled from locally available materials. It's not just a product, it's a platform for community-driven innovation. The shareholders murmured as Maya demonstrated the system's capabilities. Even James Parker seemed grudgingly impressed by the elegant engineering, but it was Victoria Blackwood's reaction that caught Elena's attention. The board chairman was watching not the technology, but the community members' faces as they engaged with it. "Mr. Trinity," Victoria said finally, "your daughter and Ms. Martinez have made a compelling case. Perhaps it's time for Trinity Innovations to return to its roots." She turned to address the shareholders. "I move to fully fund the Community Technology Initiative and expand its scope globally." The vote that followed wasn't even close. Elena's vision for community-driven technology would become Trinity Innovations' new direction. But as the shareholders filed out, James Parker lingered, his expression unreadable. "Congratulations," he said smoothly. "You've won this round. But remember, technology has a way of evolving beyond its creators' intentions. Let's hope your communities are ready for the changes they're embracing." His words carried a warning that sent a chill down Elena's spine. As she watched him leave, she realized their struggle wasn't over. It was evolving into something more complex. The question wasn't just about technology anymore. It was about power, control, and the future of innovation itself. 2 months after. The shareholder meeting, Elena's Community Technology Initiative, had expanded beyond anything she'd imagined. Trinity Innovations had established pilot programs in 12 countries, with her repair shop serving as the model for community-based technology centers worldwide. But success had brought new challenges and unexpected complications. Elena sat in her office at Trinity Innovations headquarters, reviewing reports from their global installations. Maya burst in, her silver-blue hair disheveled, clutching her tablet like a shield. "We have a problem," she announced, her voice tense. "A big one." The tablet displayed security footage from their newest community center in Southeast Asia. The custom operating system they'd developed, based on the one Elena had first encountered in Alexander Trinity's laptop, had been compromised. Someone had inserted code that collected user data and transmitted it to unknown servers. "How bad is it?" Elena asked, already dreading the answer. "The code is sophisticated," Maya explained, pulling up diagnostic data. "It's not just collecting usage statistics, it's gathering personal information, community patterns, infrastructure vulnerabilities, everything our systems were designed to protect." Elena's mind raced back to James Parker's parting words at the shareholder meeting. Had this been his plan all along? Wait until their technology was widely deployed, then exploit it for data collection? Her phone buzzed with a message from Sophia Trinity. "Emergency meeting in my office, now." When Elena arrived, she found not only Sophia but also Sarah Chen and Alexander Trinity waiting. The atmosphere was grave. "It's worse than we thought," Sophia said without preamble. "The compromised systems aren't just collecting data, they're being prepared for remote control capabilities." Alexander Trinity's face was dark with concern. The military contractors Parker was working with, they saw the potential in our community-based approach. Distributed systems, grassroots deployment, trust-based adoption. Perfect for surveillance and control infrastructure. "But we can shut it down, right?" Elena asked. "Push a security update?" Sarah shook her head. "It's not that simple. The modified code is designed to look like it's helping communities. It optimizes power consumption, improves performance, offers new features. If we shut it down abruptly, we risk losing the trust we've built." Eleanor thought of Mrs. Thompson and her radio, of all the people who had helped save her shop during the flood. Their trust wasn't just a business asset, it was a sacred responsibility. "Then we find another way," she said firmly. She turned to Maya. "How long would it take to develop a new operating system? Something completely independent of our current architecture?" Maya's eyes widened. "From scratch? Weeks, maybe months, and deploying it would require physically updating every installation." "Then we better get started," Elena said, moving to the whiteboard. She began sketching a diagram, her mind racing with possibilities. "We'll need to make it open source, completely transparent, so communities can see exactly what their technology is doing, and we'll train local experts to understand and modify it." "That's exactly what Parker's group will expect us to do," Sophia interjected. "They'll be watching for any attempt to replace the compromised systems." Eleanor smiled for the first time since learning of the breach. Yes, they will, which is why we're not going to replace anything. She expanded her diagram. We're going to teach communities to build their own systems from the ground up. The room fell silent as they grasped her plan. Instead of fighting the surveillance code directly, they would empower communities to create independent technology ecosystems. It wasn't just a technical solution, it was a complete reimagining of how technology could serve and protect communities. It's brilliant, Alexander said softly. But it's also dangerous. Parker and his allies won't just stand by and watch. Their strategy fail. No, they won't, Elena agreed, which is why we need to move fast and stay under their radar. She turned to Maya. Remember how we kept the repair shop running during power outages? Small solutions, local materials, community knowledge? Maya nodded, already pulling up design templates on her tablet. A grassroots technology revolution. But Elena, this is bigger than anything we've tried before. That's exactly why it will work, Sophia declared, her eyes shining with the same determination that had saved the initiative months ago. They're expecting corporate solutions. We're going to give them community power instead. As they began planning their counter-strategy, Elena received an unexpected message from Miguel. Her cousin had been overseeing the repair shop's transformation into a community technology center. But his message wasn't about business. He had found something in the shop's old storage room while cleaning up the last of the flood damage. Her father's original notebook, filled with designs and ideas that had been decades ahead of their time. The discovery felt like a sign. Her father had understood something fundamental about technology, that its true power lay not in the sophistication of its systems, but in its ability to empower people to help themselves. Now facing the biggest challenge of her career, Elena knew exactly how to proceed. The question was whether they could implement their plan before Parker's group realized what they were doing. The next few weeks became a blur of covert activity and careful planning. While Trinity Innovations' official channels continued normal operations, Elena's team worked tirelessly to develop their community empowerment strategy. Her old repair shop became their secret headquarters, its humble appearance providing perfect cover for revolutionary innovation. Maya had transformed the shop's back room into a makeshift development lab, where they tested new ideas using only materials available in their target communities. Elena's father's notebook proved invaluable, filled with ingenious solutions for working with limited resources. "Look at this," Maya said one evening, holding up the worn notebook. "Your father designed a mesh network system using recycled radio parts 20 years ago. The principles are perfect for our needs." Elena smiled, remembering her father's endless enthusiasm for finding creative solutions. He always said the best technology was the kind people could understand and repair themselves. Their plan was ambitious but elegant in its simplicity. Instead of fighting the surveillance code directly, they would help communities create their own parallel technology networks using locally sourced materials and open-source designs. Each community would become a self-sufficient technology hub, immune to external control. But as they worked, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Strange cars lingered outside the shop. Their secure communications experienced unexplained interruptions, and reports from their global centers indicated increasing pressure from mysterious consultants offering technical assistance. One morning, Elena arrived at the shop to find Sarah Chen waiting for her, looking more concerned than usual. "Parker's group is making moves," she reported. "They're pushing for a complete audit of all community centers, claiming security concerns." "How long do we have?" Elena asked, already messaging Maya to accelerate their timeline. "The audit team arrives in 3 days. Once they start, they'll discover what we're doing within hours." Elena looked around the shop, at the prototypes hidden behind false walls, at the community members who had become integral parts of their team, at Mrs. Thompson teaching a group of children how to repair basic electronics. They couldn't let all of this be destroyed. "Then we move now," she decided. "Alert Sophia and Alexander. We're launching ahead of schedule." The next 72 hours became a race against time. Eleanor's team worked around the clock, coordinating, with community leaders worldwide. They had to distribute their open-source designs and training materials before Parker's audit could shut them down. Maya managed their global communication network, carefully avoiding compromised channels. "It's like a digital underground railroad," she remarked, her fingers flying over her keyboard. Communities passing knowledge and tools to each other, staying one step ahead. The local community rallied around them once again. People who had helped during the flood now served as messengers and coordinators. Mrs. Thompson's radio repair group became a cover for distributing technical manuals. Even Miguel's soccer team helped, their regular matches providing perfect opportunities for community leaders to meet and exchange information. As the deadline approached, Eleanor received an urgent message from Sophia Trinity. "Parker knows. He's moved up the audit to tomorrow morning. You need to get out now." But Elena had no intention of running. Looking around at her team, Maya with her brilliant innovations, the community members who had become technology educators, the children, learning to build their own future, she knew this was where she belonged. "No," she replied to Sophia, "and we stay and finish what we started." She gathered her team for one final push. They had to complete the global distribution network before Parker's audit team arrived. As they worked through the night, Eleanor thought about how far they'd come, from the days when she struggled to keep her small repair shop afloat. Just before dawn, Maya looked up from her monitor with tears in her eyes. "It's done. The last community center just confirmed receipt. The network is complete." Elena checked her watch. 2 hours until the audit team arrived. Now came the hardest part, trusting that the communities they'd empowered would carry their vision forward. As the sun rose over her beloved shop, Eleanor prepared to face whatever came next. They had planted the seeds of true technological independence, and no corporate audit could undo that. The audit team arrived at Elena's shop precisely at 8 o'clock, led by James Parker himself. He wore a satisfied smirk as he strode through, the door followed by a group of stern-faced technical experts carrying sophisticated diagnostic equipment. "Ms. Martinez," Parker announced, his voice dripping with false courtesy, "we're here to conduct a comprehensive security review of your community technology systems. I trust you'll cooperate fully." Elena stood calmly behind her workbench, surrounded by her team and community members. Maya sat at her usual station, appearing completely absorbed in routine system maintenance. Mrs. Thompson continued teaching her electronics class in the corner, the children's chatter providing a strange backdrop to the tense scene. "Of course, Mr. Parker," Elena replied pleasantly. "We have nothing to hide." The audit team spread through the shop, connecting their equipment to various terminals. Parker watched with barely contained triumph as his experts began their scan, clearly expecting to find evidence of their unauthorized counter-programming. But something was wrong. The technicians frowned at their screens, ran diagnostics multiple times, and whispered urgently to each other. Parker's smirk gradually faded as he moved from station to station, growing increasingly agitated. "This is impossible," one expert finally announced. "The entire system architecture has changed. These aren't the Trinity Innovations protocols we were monitoring." Parker rounded on Elena. "What have you done? Where are the original systems?" Elena gestured around the shop, where community members were calmly going about their usual activities. "Look around you, Mr. Parker. What do you see? Not Trinity Innovations technology, but people learning, teaching, creating. We didn't fight your surveillance code. We made it irrelevant." As if on cue, her tablet lit up with incoming video calls from community centers worldwide. On screen after screen, local leaders proudly demonstrated their independently developed technology solutions. Solar-powered mesh networks built from recycled components, educational systems running on open-source software, communication platforms designed and maintained by the communities themselves. "You see, Mr. Parker," Elena continued, her voice carrying through the stunned silence, "while you were focused on controlling our official networks, we were teaching communities to build their own. Every center in our program has become an independent technology hub, running systems they created themselves." Sophia Trinity chose that moment to make her entrance, accompanied by her father and Victoria Blackwood. "Fascinating demonstration, Ms. Martinez," Victoria said, surveying the scene. "The board will be very interested to learn how our community initiative has evolved." Parker's face reddened. "This is a violation of corporate protocol. She's undermined the entire security infrastructure we put in place." "Security infrastructure?" Alexander Trinity's voice was quiet but carried immense authority. "Or surveillance system? We've seen the contracts you negotiated with military contractors, James. The backdoors you inserted into our community programs. Did you really think we wouldn't notice?" But Elena raised her hand, interrupting what was about to become a corporate confrontation. "This isn't about corporate politics anymore," she said firmly. "Look at what's happening here." She pointed to where Mrs. Thompson's students were eagerly showing their latest repair projects to the audit team's technicians, who had completely forgotten their official mission in their fascination with the children's innovations. In another corner, Maya was deep in discussion with one of the experts about the elegant simplicity of their community-designed networking protocols. "Technology isn't about control," Eleanor declared. "It's about empowerment. Every person in this room, every community in our network, they're not just users anymore, they're innovators, creators, teachers. That's what Trinity Innovations should be supporting, not surveillance, but independence." Sophia stepped forward, a glint in her eye that reminded everyone of her father's legendary business acumen. "As the company's major shareholder, I move to immediately restructure our community technology program. Instead of providing controlled solutions, we'll focus on education, resources, and support for community-driven innovation." Victoria Blackwood nodded slowly, her experienced eyes seeing the potential. "The market for empowerment is far larger than the market for control. Ms. Martinez, I believe the board would be very interested in hearing your vision for this new direction." Parker's face had turned from red to pale as he watched his carefully constructed plans crumble. "You can't just throw away years of development. The military contracts are cancelled," Alexander Trinity said firmly, "effective immediately." As Parker stormed out, followed by his bewildered audit team, Eleanor felt a touch on her arm. It was Mrs. Thompson holding up her old radio. "You know, dear," the elderly woman said with a knowing smile, "sometimes the best way to fix something isn't to control it, but to help it grow into what it was meant to be." Elena looked around her shop, no longer just a repair center, but a symbol of what technology could be when put in the hands of the people it was meant to serve. The audit that was supposed to end their project had instead become its greatest demonstration of success. But as messages continued to pour in from community centers around the world, she knew their work was far from over. This wasn't an ending. It was a revolution just beginning. 1 year later, Elena stood on a stage very different from the corporate auditorium where she'd first defended her project. The converted warehouse space hummed with energy as hundreds of community technology leaders from around the world gathered for the first Global Community Innovation Summit. Screens around the venue displayed live feeds from technology centers worldwide, from remote villages to urban neighborhoods, each with its own unique approach to innovation. The old repair shop, now expanded into the Ernest Martinez Community Technology Institute in honor of her father, served as the blueprint for them all. Maya, now heading Trinity Innovations' new Community Education Division, joined Elena at the podium. Her hair had returned to its natural black, but she still wore her trademark beanie. "Ready to blow their minds?" she whispered. Elena smiled, remembering the long journey that had brought them here, the late nights working on prototypes, the crisis during the flood, the tense showdown with Parker's audit team. Each challenge had only strengthened their resolve to change how the world approached technology. "Distinguished guests," Elena began, her voice carrying across the eager crowd, "1 year ago we faced a choice between control and empowerment. Today, I'm proud to show you what choosing empowerment looks like." The main screen lit up with real-time data from their global network. Not Trinity Innovations' official system, but the grassroots technology ecosystem that had grown far beyond their original vision. Communities weren't just using technology, they were innovating, creating solutions tailored to their unique needs and sharing them with others. In the past year, Elena continued, our network has grown to include over 500 independent technology centers across 60 countries. But more importantly, these centers have generated over 3,000 new technological innovations, created by local communities for local needs. Sophia Trinity, who had transformed her role as major shareholder into a passionate advocate for community-driven innovation, stepped forward to make a surprise announcement. Trinity Innovations is proud to announce the establishment of the Community Innovation Fund, $1 billion managed directly by community representatives to support grassroots technology development worldwide. The audience erupted in applause, but Elena raised her hand for silence. This fund isn't just about money, it's about trust. Trust in communities to know what they need. Trust in people to solve their own problems when given the right tools. Trust in the power of human ingenuity over corporate control. She gestured to where Mrs. Thompson sat in the front row, surrounded by her young students who had become accomplished technology mentors themselves. A year ago, someone told me that fixing something isn't about controlling it, but helping it grow into what it was meant to be. That's what this summit celebrates, not just technology, but the human potential it can unlock. Alexander Trinity, who had stepped back from daily operations but remained a guiding voice for the company's new direction, joined them on stage. When I first walked into a small repair shop with a broken laptop, I was looking for someone who understood that technology without humanity is meaningless. What I found was a vision for the future. The summit continued with presentations from community leaders, each sharing their unique innovations. A village in Africa had developed a revolutionary water purification system using local materials. A neighborhood in Brazil had created a community-owned digital marketplace. An elderly group in Thailand had designed simplified tablets that were transforming senior healthcare. As Elena watched the presentations, she thought about her father's old notebook, now digitized and shared with innovators worldwide. His vision of accessible, community-driven technology had grown beyond anything he could have imagined. The small repair shop where he'd taught her to fix broken electronics had become the seed of a global movement. The day ended with an impromptu repair workshop, where summit participants shared techniques and ideas, just as Elena had done in her shop for years. Watching community leaders from different corners of the world collaborate to fix an old radio, she realized that some things hadn't changed at all. Technology still worked best when it brought people together. Later that evening, Eleanor returned to the old repair shop. The flood damage had long since been repaired, but she'd insisted on keeping some of the watermarks as a reminder of how the community had come together in crisis. New equipment shared, space with her father's old tools, and the walls were covered with photos of successful community projects worldwide. As she sat at her familiar workbench, Eleanor picked up a broken tablet one of the summit participants had asked her to look at. Some habits never changed, and she still couldn't resist trying to fix things. But now she understood that the most important things she'd fixed weren't electronics at all. They were connections between people, communities, and possibilities. The tablet powered up, its screen glowing in the dimming light. Outside, she could hear the voices of summit participants still discussing ideas, sharing dreams, planning innovations. The technology revolution she'd started hadn't ended with defeating Parker's surveillance scheme. It was still growing, evolving, empowering new voices every day. "Dad," she whispered to the quiet shop, "I think we did it. We made technology serve people, not the other way around." The future was no longer about corporate control or surveillance. It belonged to communities, to innovators working from small shops and makeshift labs, to people who understood that the greatest technology was the kind that helped others grow. And somewhere, in every broken device waiting to be fixed, there was another opportunity to prove that truth all over again. Fim da Historia. Dear listeners, we hope Eleanor's journey, from a small repair shop owner to a global technology revolutionary, has inspired you. Her story reminds us that true innovation comes not from controlling technology, but from empowering people to create their own solutions. If you'd like to hear more stories about remarkable individuals who are changing the world through community-driven initiatives, subscribe to our channel and click the like button below. Join our growing community of listeners who believe in the power of human potential. Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear how Elena's story resonates with your own experiences with technology and community empowerment. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories that celebrate the extraordinary in everyday people.